Thank you for inviting us to tell you about our integrated approach about ecology and heritage. I'm happy that I'm the third one to talk because I can say something about your presentation as well. I'm urban planner for the municipality of Paisaje. It's one of the 7 local communities. I'm widely involved in the whole project from the beginning, and since I'm a planner, I'm involved in heritage and landscape and in ecology, from the management, but also from the permissions and planning. I will primarily focus on the participation and the support for the local communities, because we think that the contact and with the local communities is important to get started. And we think the national park, Hoge Kempen, the organization itself, it's more or less the glue, the cement in between all the organizations and the governments who are working on this issue. It's rather recent, this story, because it started in 1990. The mining was closing, and there was an idea of reconversion, and the province of Limburg had to reinvent itself. We had a huge problem with people without work, with industrial sites. Oops. And the province Limburg itself decided that we should focus on nature. We were not focusing on heritage on that moment yet. It started off with conservation of nature. I was listening to Richard and sorry, very close, because of course we have the problem as well that we don't have a rich trust with a lot of money and a lot of people involved, so we had to start from nothing. And we don't have that great heritage sites like Greece. But still we think we have a great story to tell about nature and heritage itself. I will tell you about the triggers we are focusing on, and then I will show you some tools we are working with, and I hope they match. It's very important that local people love the project you're working on. You are focusing on in our case, we are very focused on biodiversity, on important special nature issues. But still we had to tell people about the story in a not scientific way, of course, and they had to appreciate the idea from the beginning. We had to let them learn to enjoy the environment, because they were all trying to find a new job. They were not looking at the nature, and they were all focused on economical issues like new factories and new roads, and yeah, I think it's all always the same, like new roads, new industry. So we had to tell them that they should enjoy the environment, just the normal things like I'm a fan of the YouTube channel of the National Trust, and there are such little videos about just children getting out, playing in the mud, and it's most of all, it's many times in the little things. So they should love and enjoy the quality of the nature, and they should recreate. They should use the facilities, and they should be very excited and about its importance. It's it's also important that they can get the benefit of it. It starts very small with a cafe on a nice place where bikers can stop and have a drink. But later on, maybe there will be in a hotel, and later on there will be more things who get involved, and you have to start very small and little, and you have to create a benefit for the people. And then of course I come to the same story which it was talking about. So we can, maybe I go back to the beginning. We have to look at examples. We don't have to reinvent everything. We have to look, we have to adapt, but you shouldn't copy. You should look at your own way of working and thinking and doing. I mean, Spanish culture is not Belgium, it's not Britain, it's not Greece, I think. So you can copy a concept and do it the same way on another place, I think. That's difficult, but it's also interesting to work on. Yellowstone started its national park for the benefit and enjoyment of the people, and that's what it's all about, I think. In the early days, there were really rich people who could enjoy nature, but the people itself, they didn't enjoy. That's why they created Yellowstone, and they started to bring it to the people. And that's more or less the story the National Park of Hoge Kempen wants to tell as well. Of course, it's just a sentence, you have to bring it down. The idea of a national park in Flanders is not an easy issue, because it's a very dense urban setting in Central Europe. We have constant planning and new roads and cities growing larger and larger, and we don't have that much space like you have in Britain or in Spain. So it was very hard to get started and then to get it going. The name is used for the project itself, but the organization has the same name. I will tell you where it is. This is a map of Belgium. It's near the border at the east of the Netherlands, and then like 15 kilometers it's Germany. So this is the Netherlands. Here is the national park, and here's Germany. France, Wallonie. I will tell you what the National Park Hoge Kempen is all about. It's located in the Kempen area. I think that's the translation of Kempen, but we always say Kempen. It's a plateau created by a river sediment of the Meuse, with a very pronounced plateau edge, and it's created in the Ice Age. It's about 6,000 acres of heathland, conifers and ancient forests, and gravel-rich sandy soil. And that's an important issue, that it's gravel and sandy. It's not part of my presentation, but although it's about management and about economics, you should know that gravel is an important building product. And the last 20 years they made a lot of holes in the landscape, just like that, to get the gravel. And when the gravel was out, there was the very special white sand. They make glass and even chips for computers. So it's very special sand. So they even went deeper in the ground just to make even bigger holes. So it's not always that positive. But we turn it around, and that's what I will come on later. We turn it around in creating new landscapes, because someone was asking, what do you do to restore the landscape? But maybe you don't have to restore all the landscapes. Maybe you have to figure out how can I create landscape. And that was an important focus for the national park, because there is nobody going to pay for restoring a landscape for an industrial area or a trust maybe could. You have the plateau, of course, and then later on you had the coal mines. They are very recent history, with garden cities and all the new dense city development, I should say. And then it's important to tell you this is the Meuse, this is the plateau, but the water on the plateau had to get off, so you have very nice stream valleys on the edge. And they are very, very, very important for the ecological system, because these are microclimates. They are not windy, very sunny for some parts, and yeah, we are putting a special effort on them. Now, how can we get people to this place without demolishing this place? That was an important issue for the national park. So they were talking with the communities, and they decided to create gates, local gates, and one regional gate to the park, and all visitors should go, or one way or another, with branding and publicity, to these places. People who go to other places are welcome as well, but when you try to reach people, you have to know where you want to bring them. You don't let them go around. And each city has a gate. It's important, of course, to get them connected. And one new gate, regional gate, is going to be made on this mining area. So I will tell you the story more about these gates. Where do we get this idea of these gates? We went to Berg in Wales before we started, and there we adapted the idea that you need these local gates, and they don't have to be huge buildings with indoor facilities with multimedia and things like that. It should be small. They need some biking, they need a coffee, they need some documentation. They have to be nice places, and they could have a focus on one thing or another thing when you work with more gates. Another gate we went to was the Dutch gate in the Hoge Kempen. It's a very nice place. And the special thing is that they only have one regional gate, and they bring people there and they give them the idea that they are in the center of the national park, but they didn't enter the national park. So it's an idea of conservation. I have to drink. It's an idea of conservation of nature, because the nature is left alone. But you still show a lot of people what's the quality of the area, and the local people are living closer, and they of course can enter it. There is some branding involved as well. It's important that you get the local communities connected, but they have to fit in one branding. They have, of course, they need a, they have to follow the focus and the idea of the national park, but they can make their own focus. These are the 6 gates. I will show you around. This is Paisaje. Paisaje is located in the south. It's the community of Lanaken. It's very close to Maastricht. Who knows Maastricht? So this is almost like becoming like one city, and that's why we are working with Maastricht nowadays, because there are a lot of visitors in Maastricht as well. And Paisaje has a focus on a moated castle from the 12th century, Middle Age. And it's with an architectural contest. They made a visitor center, and they this is the tourist information of Larnaca as well. It's very small. But it's focused on the moated castle. You can discuss on the way of we are handling here with heritage. I don't know which, but I think it's a good intervention. Another gate we have is on the north. It's the community of Ras. It's a very small village. It's you can see that gate as well. It has its focus on the mining history, and it tells two stories. It tells the story of the first drilling. There was a wooden tower on this place where a scientist was drilling for coal, and they figured out that this could be a good place to build some mining sites and to start the mining industry. Another story they are telling, it's not that good to see, yeah, you can see it on the biking, is the tracks. There were 6 mining factories and very close to each other, and they were connected with a rail. And nowadays the rail is not used anymore, so half of it is now a biking path, a normal biking path, and this is a rail biking path. So it's nice to recreate, and you can you can bike from one gate to another gate. It's very small scale, but it's attracting people, so it works. Then we have the gate of Paisaje. I'm a urban planner in Maasmechelen. It's I would say a small city. And we will have, in the future, we will have 2 gates. Maasmechelen, Paisaje is the gate. You can see the distance. It's almost in the national park. This is the gate where you can really walk straight away into the national park, and it's the gate closest to nature, we say. There are no buildings, just a shed. And we are not intent to, it's just the landscape gate. But here we tell the story about the new landscape. It's the beauty of Maasmechelen. Paisaje is this is the road to the old Grund winning, and we tell the story about making new nature. It's a huge place where you have a lot of water and new slopes, and people cannot believe that this was a very mining-like area 20 years ago, and now it's the most liked natural place of Maasmechelen. So you can get a good story. We made a special part as well for the disabled. It's a very small place, but still they can get the look and feel of the national park as well. And the story we want to tell as well is it's the Obama story. It's the story about the eco-structures. It's something we adapted. When you are in economical crisis, you can put money, government money in new structures, and they don't have to be roads. They can also be nature connections. And this is the first ecoduct of Flanders in Belgium. It's over the motorway. And there was a lot of discussion about it, like the government was spilling money for animals. How weird can you be? So, but now we are very, very, very proud about it, and we are thinking about, and that's the drawing below, we are thinking about connecting 2 old Grund-winning lakes. The black line is the motorway. Under the motorway, and we call it the Eco Valley, And we are thinking about taking away the motorway, put it on pillars, and then have nature going under. We're not sure about it yet, because the problem with the motorway is the noise. When you put it on pillars, the noise is even louder, or you have to make like a tunnel on pillars, and then it's even weirder. So we're thinking about making an ecoduct again, but much larger than this one, like 400 or 500 meters. It's like a real new tunnel over for the animals. Then we have Berg. Zutendaal is a very it's even smaller than us. It's a very small community. I have to tell you something about this place. It's a large military place. It's not urban-like. It's even more nature-like than the national park itself. But because of the military status, we couldn't put it in the national park itself. But it's a very nice place. Although I think 2 or 3 times a week it's like a war zone. It's very much noise. But so Zutendaal has more or less a kind of a problem with the connection of the national park. But still, and I repeat, it's all about branding and getting the look and feel. It's about cheating people, actually. They have the idea that they go to the national park, but they are not in. But Berg is maybe one of the most successful stories because they adapted the idea of the microcosmos. They focused on microcosmos, and they are telling a story about the insects in the national park, the butterflies in the national park. And they did something very simple. They made the bare feet bed. And it's an extreme success. People just take off their shoes and they go to water, to mud, they walk on wood. It's extremely simple, but they pay money to do this stuff. It's an economical reason. Genk is the most dense city-like place of the area, and they adapted the macrocosmos in Kattenvenne. Why did they do this? They had a recreational area that already called Kattenvenne, I think, and they have a real stargazer, and they had a cosmodrome. So people went there already to learn about the stars and things like that. But they reinvented this place because this was an old recreational area where you could do some horse riding, where you could stay for summer camp. But they needed a new branding for the place, so they used I think it's a good idea. They used the national park to combine it with the already existing Cosmodrome. They renewed it, of course, and they made a new visitor center for the city of Genk as well. So I think this is a success as well. And then talking for Maasmechelen, of course, the most important gate we want to establish now is Connectera. And it's all about connection, as you see in the name. It's about connecting people with nature and heritage and telling the story. The storytelling you can see in the other gates as well, but the storytelling about the national park itself should be at best in this gate. It's the old coal mine of Hoge, and you have great views. I will tell you something again about new landscapes. This was heathland 100 years ago. Then there came these green dwellings. No, I thought wrong. First there was a mine. You had the buildings of the mine, you had the shafts, You had whales here, and then you had the waste of the mining. So there was these barrels. We have 4 of them. The oldest one is not in the picture, it's the red one, and because it's not good sorted out, so there's a lot of coal in this mountain. It's still burning. So when they take out the gravel, it's a red gravel they use for tennis planes. When they take out the gravel, there is oxygen coming to stones, and it just starts burning. Sometimes it's in the summer, it's like a volcano. Then here you see the two second ones. These are the only ones who are just dropped there and left for nature. So they're very interesting because you can see what nature does with places you just leave alone. And the last one is the long one, we call them. They once wanted to build a vacation village on this place, in the idea of reconversion. But on that moment, the vacation villages were in crisis and they didn't want to build a new one. And maybe we're happy about it now, because otherwise it would be an old, new vacation village. But they did do some remodeling, and this is a very important ecological place, because it's black, it's warm, it's very salty. So you have very sea-like ecological emphasis here, like you don't see anywhere else. So we have to learn people why we act and do things on places. And you have to tell it again and again and again, because they say, oh, that's a nice place. Once there was someone who wanted to make a vineyard, because it's warm and it's impossible. And after the mines were closing, the grindwinning was coming on this place as well, and you see a little bit here, maybe you see it on the next picture as well, but we have lakes in between these new mountains. So when you're standing here, it's like you're in Canada, because it's mountains and lakes and no buildings and forests. And this landscape is like maybe 50 years old. So this is the most beautiful panorama of Flanders we see, but it's a little bit of, I'm not objective, I suppose. So we have to keep it this way, and it's not easy to keep it this way, because the tourist industry likes this place also, and they still have this idea of this vacation village, and so we're happy to get people staying here, but not in little houses just all over and with no concept. So we have to rethink concepts all the time again. That's okay. Maybe important, and that's not an easy thing to tell to a local community who's not used to working with universities. Maasmechelen has no university, of course. And what do you do when a university is coming to your place and just saying that you have to look close to conservation but not development? So we are focusing on the biodiversity, and now the university is going to build this building. It's a mirror building, and it's quite large. It's 10 by 110, and these are ecotrons. You know what ecotrons are? It's cells where they put same ecostructures in different atmospheres, and they look how they develop in different ways. So it's like temperature or water, or I don't know, sour rain or things like that. And we did an architectural context for this building, because it's not easy to build this building in this area, of course. And the architect who won just created a mirror. I like it very much. I don't know. Some people didn't like. So I think it works. They tried the idea of the gates, and it works because people know the gates. People go to the gates. Even the local people go to the gates, and the crowd is not going into the central area. Only the ones with the backpack and the rough shoes, they go, but they are welcome and they are very little. So when we were making a dossier for the UNESCO, so we had to go back and we are not going to tell UNESCO the story about, we will tell them, but that's not the reason why we would become a UNESCO landscape. So we had to figure out what is special about our national park. Of course, we think we have an extreme mixture of nature and culture. Culture, in the way of the other presentation, is not that present. It's like mining, but it's very recent history, and there is only one old castle. So it's not that much we can focus on in a cultural way, but we do on another way. But we tell the story about the man-made nature, and maybe that's why they liked it. Bees is actual in another way, of course, as well, but bees are brought there by humans, and they are important in the story as well. Of course, there is the heat, which is very important, and it's very difficult to keep it that way. You have to do grazing concepts. The terrals look very natural, but they are man-made and they're very recent. And nowadays we have the grazing with the horses because they don't need a lot of attention, and they are very. It's like you use a car. Yeah. So it's a great story about biodiversity with a lot of species who are very, very special, and the combination with culture and picking up history and making new places is very important, I think. So it's about transition. I wanted to talk about. You could draw the landscape like this, and it's important that we see the different layers. I have to, yeah, please. Go back. So this is the story about the transition, where we tell the story of a rural period to an industrial period, and now a new period we are reinventing, where we are focusing on new economies like the free, how do you call it, free time economy? Vrije tijdseconomie, you can say. How do you call it?
Leisure.
Leisure, of course, leisure. we focus a lot on leisure because we think people should cool down and not focus too much on earning money, but just having, yeah, of course you need money, but they should enjoy the area they live in, and the people who are living in our area, they should earn money from the recreation of other people. So it's a story about transition, but it's also a story about reinvention for the future. So this selected landscape, it presents, oh sorry. So this landscape, it presents these transitions, and we try to read it like a book. First you have the carbon era, when the coal mine is the formation of the coal. Then you have the brown one, that's the Ice Age. It's created by the river Meuse, and it's deposit Quint, and it created the deep, steep ridges. So we have the plateau, we have the river Meuse, and then we have these small cuts in this very steep ridge. Then we have the rural age. It's okay. Then we have the rural age, which is with the typical heathlands. And actually it's created by overgrazing in these times. And then we have the landowners, the big landowners who submit forests and the big villas, and yeah, it's like for the nature for the rich people all the time, the nature for the rich people. And then we get the industrial period with the mining and the industrial sites, the mining villages, and of course the booming society. Like the city of Genk, I think nowadays it's still not that big when you look to Madrid, of course. But like 80 years ago, there were like 300 people living, and now they are living 90,000. 90,000. So we are telling this story in like a book. It's a book of landscapes, and you see the pictures next to it, and that's how you see the landscape as well. You of course, some places you see the coal, the mass. It's looking the way you see at the picture. We have a lot of places with the heat and the woods interfering, but we still have real woods as well. And then you have the mining areas, but they are left, and they are becoming nature again as well. Because I can tell you something special about these stones. They are both classified, do you say? Listed, sorry. Listed. They are both listed, but then they protected. But then there was a problem with the concrete here, and they rebuilt it here. So this is, I'm sorry, but this is a copy. I'm a little bit ashamed. And this one was left, but nowadays this is like I still think it's a copy, and this one has trees on the roof nowadays. And I like the contrast nowadays, and we are thinking about what can we do about it, like giving a new function on this one, because actually it's not a monument anymore. It's just it's a point in the landscape, of course, and it's part of the two shafts. But we are thinking about making a total new function for the interior, and I think that's okay. But we're also thinking about how we should work on the conservation of this one, because we want to keep it this way, but of course it has to stay there. So it's hard. It's more hard to keep it like a ruin than just give it a new function. So that's a weird discussion. So that's more or less the triggers we were working with, and that's what we want to tell. But of course you need tools to do it. And we had to gain insight, and we want to work on economic benefits. So we have to figure out how can we tell people how many people do visit us, and what could be the economic return of people visiting us. That's not that easy because it's a landscape, it's huge, you don't see how many bikers, how many walkers, people come and go, they don't, maybe they go for a drink or they have something to eat, but you don't know how many. So they worked out some electronics to find out. And they measure them on, you don't see that when you bike there, but we do see, it's like Big Brother. It's another Big Brother. We have things, slabs and steps on special places where we know that most people pass in the walking around. Or on the cycle parts we have like reflections, so we see how many bikers do pass. You have to measure to know, to tell the local government that there is a return. It's not only by telling. Now I'm just reading my slide. We have about 700,000 cyclists a year in the national park. I think that's a lot. And we were thinking about what do they spend, because it's all about spending, of course, when you're thinking about economics. And that's okay, because when you want to get tourists to Madrid, you want them to have something to eat, to pay entrance to some museum, and take the metro. So they figured out how much would a tourist spend, and what would a tourist spend who sleeps over. So because that's the next step. You have to get tourists to come to you, but that's most of the time a one-day recreation, we call it. But we want to have them sleep over because they spend a lot more. We figured out that the one-day tourist is only spending 13 euro, and the sleepover tourist is 66 euros. So it's very important to focus on good locations for our hotels and to have them sleep over and still have them in this look and feel of the national park, but not demolishing it. So when you put these figures together, you can tell something about euros, and maybe it's not really that much, but it still could be that much. So how do you get businesses involved? Because you have to trigger the locals to reinvent themselves, because they are out of job and they have to find out new things. There is this rail biking. You need some people to do this. You put some things on branding. You make maps. You make even stupid things like this. But it all has to fit, and it's good to trigger people to get connected in the story and then do their own thing. And maybe that's what they're good about at the Hoge Kempen. Of course, there's little return in getting honey of bees, but still, somebody has to do it. Maybe some volunteers. But we also work on sponsorship. We have. I was sitting on the flight yesterday to Madrid. I was sitting next to a student from Jornada, and he was studying law in Brussels, and he went home after half a year, and he had a case full of Belgian beer, La Chouffe. And La Chouffe is the beer of the national park, so I was very surprised that he took this beer to experiment in Jornada. So it works. But it's also about Prague, because they get elected. They have to tell it when they go for elections. So when they are not proud, they are not telling your story, so it's not working. And it can be in very little stories. This is the campaign we made for controlling invasive species in the forest, so people could go in the forest and get the wood for themselves, and they just had to cut it and then put the product on the on the stump, and then it was very expensive for the government to do it, but if locals could do it and they would do it for the wood, we we could control the invasive species. It's just a funny picture of a child with trees on it. So this is how we come to the UNESCO. This is the area we put it in the candidate for the UNESCO. We are listed on the candidate. And this is the mining in Genk. Because it's not close to the national park, it still can have in the same story a new function. This is nowadays the cultural center of the city. And Maasmechelen is not focusing on building on things like that, but it's mostly focusing on landscape. And in the case of Jornada, we are telling the story of the garden city as well, because it's one of the most garden cities of Flanders. We're now working on the conservation of this garden city. I could tell you 10 minutes about it, but I'm not going to. But it's also about giving a responsibility. We have volunteers, not that many, but these are our wages. They give guided tours, they welcome the visitors. We give jobs. These are the park rangers who have to look at the paths and the signages and things like that. They just do the maintain. And we focus on, and that's a story we tell again and again, we are focusing on visitors' payback, because that's an important economical issue in the national park, because we are in constant reconversion. We had the reconversion of the mining, and now this place is in the reconversion of the closing of a very huge car factory, which is closing this year. So we really have to focus on getting new jobs and getting visitors who really spend money in our area. So we make great maps to show them around, and which focus again on these gates. And we do some survey as well, because people coming by car, we know in a huge landscape everybody is going by car or by bike, of course. And we did a research with a care park, we call it, and we asked people if they wanted to pay for parking, and 84% was okay to pay, just because they liked the national park. It's very small, but maybe we come to the concept of the trust in a much bigger way. People do pay for things which have a good story and have a sustainable story, I think. The last thing I want to tell you about, and Flanders is terrible in that case. We have a lot of legislations, and we have a lot of sectors we have to work with. So every project we have to figure out what's important. It's not all of these, but we have a lot of legislations in the sectors and the areas. Europe, Belgium, Flanders, the province has its own legislations as well. Every community has its own idea of how we should work with legislations. So my partners of the National Park made a great they combine it with the idea of the Rubik's Cube, of course, because it's really hard to figure out these projects, how to work with it. So every project is hard to work on. So I hope I gave you some triggers and tools. Thank you.